Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Take That for Data, the audio version. This week on the blog, we talked about following your number ones. And when I say number one, I don't necessarily mean the number one person in the industry or the number one of anything. What I'm referring to is finding the kind of person you want to be to achieve your goal. So if your goal is to be an expert in digital analytics, if your goal is to be the top data analyst in your company, if the goal is to be a spokesperson for the analytics industry, find the kinds of people that are in those spaces. They would be what you would call your number ones. The reason I like to use number ones and people I view them as number ones is, one, they will have the greatest wealth of information. Odds are if you found them, they are putting out content somewhere, or they are somehow making themselves known to the world as an expert in the industry, or just to you. It might be someone at your company. The other great thing about number ones is they're going to be highly motivating to you. You will be seeing people doing things that you will feel is really cool, and that will give you an incentive to continue following them and continue working to become what you view as your number one. So in the blog, I talk a bit about that. The other thing I wanted to point out is that if you want to use your number one, you don't have to do that in order to become a number one yourself. You can be whatever number you want, but using a number one gives you the length to get to wherever it is you want to go, which is another great reason to follow number ones. So how do you get a hold of a number one? So, of course, the optimal would be if you can contact them. You should absolutely do that. You should build a relationship. And the number one, of course, will then tell you how to do what they did. But depending on what kind of number one they are, especially if they are a TED speaker or they're kind of the top of the industry, they may be harder to build a relationship with. The other way I would try to do it is through their content. So if they have a blog post, read the blog post. If they have a book, read the book. If they have 2 books, read both books. Ingest as much content as humanly possible, because that is where you will get the best glimpse of their point of view on not only the industry, but what it takes to do what they do. And even take their social content. It doesn't always have to be analytics related. If they are going to a bar and they have this kind of point of view, that's going to give you a window into how they think. If they are at a conference, you can find that out through looking at their Instagram feed or their Twitter feed. If you can get to an event, absolutely go to that event. That's another way that you may be able to actually broker a personal relationship with the number one. Once you have an understanding of their content, once you've seen them at conferences, heard them speak, use that to build your path. So if you notice they talk a lot about R, or they talk a lot about Google Analytics, or they talk a lot about voice, they talk a lot about artificial intelligence, use those as clues to things that you need to make sure that you are aware of and prepared for when you want to make that move. The final thing I bring up is just a personal note. I really think number ones are excellent for the motivational side of things. And this doesn't have to be the number one in data and digital. I love watching Floyd Mayweather prepare for a fight. I love Iron Chef Alex Guarnaschelli. I love the way she just talks about things that go well with other items. Those sorts of things. Watching Serena Williams in a tennis match, watching Magic Johnson in basketball. Getting to see people at the height of their game is a great way to keep yourself motivated and understand that that's somewhere that we can get to. All of those people were not very good at those things at some point in time. They got there through reverse engineering their goals. They probably had number ones that they looked up to. So we can do the same thing. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. Next week, I'm going to be talking about audience segmentation, which is a great way to really add value to the analyses that you're doing with your data. But until then, take that for data.